So when Penstar emailed me and said, would I like to be one of the first to get a hold of their eNote Pro, which is a colour eInk tablet, I couldn't say no. Hey everyone, Mark from the Spark here. Welcome back to another video. And we're going to be checking out the colour eNote Pro. And there's quite a lot to like about this thing, but before we get into how it functions, how it works, and in particular how does the color aspect of it stack up, and we'll maybe test that against my Remarkable Paper Pro Move here, let me just show you the unboxing. Alright, let's talk specs, because Penstar's actually packed quite a lot into this new eNote Pro. It starts with a 10.3 inch Kaleido 3 colour eInk display running at 300 pixels per inch in black and white and 150 ppi in colour. You've got a warm and cold adjustable front light. The eNote Pro uses an EMR stylus with 8,192 pressure levels, completely battery free. The device runs on an octo-core processor paired with 4GB of RAM and 128GB of internal storage. It's all sitting on top of Penstar OS 2.0, which is based on Android 14. It also includes an 8 megapixel rear camera, mainly for document scanning, plus an 8 microphone array that works with the built-in voice-to-text and AI meeting summary tools. You've also got 5 physical buttons along the side as usual. The whole thing weighs around 430 grams with a thickness of 5.8mm. Powering everything is a 6,500 mAh battery. Okay, so that was the unboxing of this thing. Let's now get stuck into what it can do, what it looks like, and how the colour compares to something like my Remarkable Paper Pro Move here. So let's get stuck in. So I think you have to agree that the design of this thing is absolutely gorgeous. It is slim. I think it's only about 5.8mm around here and weighs round about 500 grams, something like that. But it does mean it's significant in the hand in that it doesn't feel cheap, but it's not so heavy that you couldn't carry this around and use it as your digital note-taking device. So this is the cover, which I will take off for the sake of this review, just so we can look at it in all of its glory. Now on the back here is this kind of silicon texturized, I don't know material, but it feels lovely. If you can hear it. It feels really nice. It's very grippy, and obviously it matches the front here, so it's very very stylish, I think. And there we are. Okay, like I say, it's thin around the edges. You've got some speakers on here, USB-C and the on button, and apparently you've got about 8 mics around this thing as well. I like this kind of grippy edge here, which, depending on whether you're right or left-handed, you can hold the tablet like that or like that, but that is lovely. Feels metal, but I don't think it is. I think it's, I don't know, some kind of clever, I don't know, it must be metal. Yeah, it is metal. It must be kind of like brushed aluminium. There we are, you can see more of the speakers, and probably in here is where the mics are hidden too. I just think it looks lovely, and as with the previous Penstar, I like the fact it has hardware buttons here, which you can map to pretty much anything you want this thing to do with these particular buttons here. And one thing you can't see, and it's weird that they have made these so faint, and I don't think you're going to be able to pick these up on the camera. I'll try and put it in close there, but I don't think you're going to be able to. It has some icons on here. So the top one is for going into, like, I imagine the apps, and then the notebook, and then your library, and then 3 boxes here. Again, you can map those to what you want. Anyway, they are there and they exist, but that is absolutely lovely. 10.3 inch from here to here, and if you don't mind this kind of 3 blended colour here. I know the Paper Pro and the Kindle Scribe have kind of tried to get rid of these borders, so it looks more like a sheet of A4 paper, and I think the Remarkable Paper Pro does that incredibly well. This has just dived into, well, we've got a border here, we might as well make some useful things out of it. So there you are, subjective. Do you like that? Do you not like that? I think it frames it quite beautifully. You'll have noticed as well, while I was turning it around, that there is a camera here. That you could take pictures with, but it's an eInk display. That really is for scanning documents and things like that, to add them to your notebook. But a very useful addition, AI cam, it says on there. So it's obviously going to use some clever AI to help you scan your documents even better than you could on your own. You'll also notice it has a pen just here, and very cleverly it has this little slot in the side of the frame here, so it's always with you wherever you go. Now the previous Penstar's, they had a cover like this. I'll link those previous Penstar tablets at the end of the video and in the description as well, but it had kind of like a loop on the case cover here, and so you would just put your pen in there, which meant if you didn't want to carry this cover around with you, you'd have to carry your pen separately, which was a bit weird. So it's nice to see they've added that in there, and really neat touch. And this thing is slimmer than the previous Penstar pens that they use with their eNote series, and doesn't weigh that much, enough that you know you've got something in your hand. It weighs like a pencil rather than a pen. It's got to be some Wacom type of stylus, because it's only active when it's touching the screen, so electromagnetic resonance, so it knows it's there when it's near the screen. It means you don't have to charge this thing like you might have to do with a Apple Pencil and other things like that. An active stylus, for example, like the Remarkable Paper Pro, this is an active stylus, so a little bit heavier, has a battery in there. But I think when they go down that choice, apparently it means the latency and what have you is less, and say something like an EMR pen here. You can see on here as well, it's got 3 buttons which will do various things, and I imagine within the settings you'll be able to change those and map those to whatever you want them to do. And it's got an eraser on the top here, a very rubbery eraser as well, and nibs at the end. You can pull these out, you get some nibs with it, as you saw in the unboxing, and probably can't see that, it's so small. It's when you've ground it down from all those notes, you can replace it very, very easily. I think in the previous version of this as well, you could twist and you had 4 stored in here. Looks like you can't do that here. I don't think so. No, this rubber thing comes off the top there, but that's about it. So no storing any spare nibs in here. Okay, you win some, you lose some, I guess. Anyway, 8,000, let me just check my notes here, 8,192 levels of pressure, which I think is much more than any other pen. If it isn't Wacom, and it is some kind of other EMR type of stylus, some proprietary kind of gear that they've Penstar put together, then it's going to give you that fine detail in terms of pressure. We'll get into it when we do the proper kind of looking at all the colours and what have you. But just doing that on the glass screen here, it feels smoother than, say, this. There's definitely more of a scratch when it comes to the Remarkable tablet. Yeah, there's definitely more of a scratch. Now, whether you prefer that smoother feeling or the scratchiness of something like a Remarkable Paper Pro is entirely subjective. But just to let you know that it feels a bit scratchier and a bit more like less like you're putting it on glass with something like the Remarkable Pro compared to the Penstar eNote. But again, that's subjective. You may like that, you may not like that. Something I noticed here, it says mountain. No real idea what that means. I looked at the brief that Penstar gave me and they didn't reference mountain at all. So I don't know whether that's a code name for the tablet or something like that. I'm just going to call it a Colour eNote Pro. Okay, let's get this thing switched on. And hopefully that is doing it justice, because the thing that I have loved about Penstar is I've always felt that their screen was very clear, very contrasty, very defined, and I've loved that. Out of all the eInk devices that I've tested and checked out over the last few years of having the channel, I think this, for some reason, has always come up tops for me, and I don't think they've particularly let us down here with this version of the eNote either. As with pretty much every eInk device out there, you've got 300 pixels per inch if you're just using black and white, and you have 150 pixels per inch when you start adding color into the equation, because you've got to have that kind of color layer as well as the monochrome layer. This uses a Kaleido 3 screen as opposed to, for example, this one, which I believe uses Gallery 3. And both companies have implemented the way that they put color onto the screen in a slightly different way, and again we will get into that in a bit. But firstly, let's just do a little overview of what you get on your home screen here with the eNote Pro. It's very similar to the other eNote versions that are out there, but obviously this is in color, and again I encourage you to watch the other videos I've done on this if you want to do a bit more of a deep dive into each of these segments here. But I'll quickly go through it with you, and I'll use my finger, because the important thing to note on here is it's actually now a touch screen, whereas the other versions of the eNote you had to use your stylus if you wanted to do anything, which always felt a bit weird because I got used to using the stylus in combination with touching the screen. Well, now we have a touch screen proper, which I think is absolutely fantastic. So if we tap on here using our fingers, you go into the calendar, and you can change what's on your display here at the top. You've got loads of different wallpapers, and these will be color focused. Let's have a look more. Yeah, you can download different versions. It looks like there's only two. Like on the other eNotes there was a selection, but it looks like there's only two. What's customize do here? Okay, you can add different things that you've taken pictures of to make that a wallpaper. There we are, so you can edit that a little bit. You've got the camera there, which again, if you can see, there we are. Yeah, it's great. You can even record video. All right, okay, and down here, if you had anything you've added to your bookshelf, which you have to do either via side loading it onto the tablet, via USB-C, and using different cloud services, I think you can get stuff onto this device as well. You can even sync your emails up if you want to. There you go, you can add an email account there and get all your emails onto this thing, which is very handy. Before we get into the notes, because we're going to use that when we test the colors, they've also got a small app selection here as well. And so they've installed some by default, the Copilot app from Microsoft, I believe, and then the Kindle app. And the Kindle app to me is really quite useful. On the previous models, like I said, because they didn't have a touch screen, you had to use your stylus. Always seemed a bit weird going back and forth with a stylus, but now that they've added touch to it, you can now use it as you would do a normal Kindle device. There we are. And because this is an app, like an Android app, you can change all the functions and functionalities you would do within an Android app. So there you go. Layout, themes, etc. Anyway, this isn't a Kindle review, so I'm not going to go too much into that, other than that is an incredibly useful app to have. And again, if you can appreciate the color on this thing, I think that is lovely. In fact, let's go back into that book and go to the cover screen just to appreciate the color aspect of it. What do you reckon? I think that looks lovely, and it's the same with the Kindle Colorsoft. It just kind of brings the book to life a little bit more when you have the occasional splash of color, particularly on the color screen, and when you're looking at your library as well. It's just nicer to see rather than having monochrome. But again, that's subjective. You might not mind that or even care, but I appreciate it. Okay, this is the home button here. There we are. And you can get more apps that you can install yourself. So we've got loads of reading ones here. So Kobo Books, Libby, like if you want to download books from your library and borrow the books, you can use that there. I think it's got Pocketbook on here and a number of others. You've got some news apps that you can download. Not many, there's a few. Tools, so some productivity tools. Just one Read It Later app. There we are. What have we got in the office here? So as well as Copilot, you've got OneDrive, OneNote and Outlook. That's useful. And learning. So different ways of learning stuff, flashcard apps, things like that. You could use those if you wanted to. And what's in the others? Let's have a look. All right, okay, you can download different app stores as an alternative to Google Play, which a lot of these apps are from. You can install these and open up what apps you download to your device. Obviously, the more you do that, the more there's a little bit of a security risk, but they're there for you to do that if you want to. And what I appreciate about the Penstar tablets, as opposed to say the Books tablets, whenever I've used the Books, they are lovely, they are fantastic. But there's so much choice, and in one sense, I'm overwhelmed because it's completely open to Google Store. There's layers upon layers of settings which you can go into and really dial it in and have it how you want it to look. But for me, I'm always a little bit overwhelmed with all the choices. Whereas and obviously, if you compare that to the Remarkable Paper Pro or the Kindle Scribe, you don't even have apps that you can install. So you go from Books, which is really open, to this, which is quite closed and focused, and that's part of their mission statement is, we want you to get on with doing the stuff rather than be distracted. I think the Penstar tablets give you that nice halfway house. They give you some choices of apps for you to install, but they don't overwhelm you with selections. Okay, let's get into a notebook and start doing some colour comparisons, and we will compare it to a Remarkable Paper Pro Move, because the Paper Pro and the Paper Pro Move essentially use the same technology. So I'll get the brightness up as bright as I can on here. Now, what you will notice is that the Paper Pro Move here, it's like the Paper Pro, its big brother. You can't get that brightness up as bright as you certainly can on this device here. So we're on full brightness already. So to make it a little bit fair, we'll turn it down a little bit, but I don't want to not be able to see it on the camera there. But and then another thing you'll see as well is I really appreciate the whiteness that the eNote has over something like the Remarkable Paper Pro Move here. A lot more like a sheet of paper in colour than this, and I do recognise a little bit apples and oranges because this is smaller, but I think just for the sake of testing the colours, because this is the same technology that its bigger brother uses, a Paper Pro, I think we're all right to compare them. I don't think it's too unfair, but I do like the clear whiteness that this has as opposed to the Paper Pro Move. So let's just do something in colour. So we'll go to we'll go to the marker. We'll make it big and we'll pick the red, and then we'll do the same thing on here. We'll go to a marker, thick and red. Tap off, tap off. Yep. All right, okay. We'll just do one there. And we'll do that one there. All right, the first thing you'll have noticed is there was significantly a lot less flashing on this Kaleido 3 screen here in the way that they've implemented their colour, as opposed to the flashing that is quite evident on the Paper Pro, on the Gallery 3 colour screen, how Remarkable have implemented it. So just to do that once again, so it's kind of dark and then it flashes, kind of builds up the colour. And then this, I'm trying to use am I using the right pen? Yeah. That just kind of flashes once and it's done. So a lot less flashing, and a lot of people don't like the kind of flashing that the amount of times this deals out as compared to this. And that's because the technology that the Paper Pro Move uses, or the Paper Pro, it kind of builds the colour up in layers. But what that does mean is that the colour, let me try and do it a little bit close. Oh, wrong pen. Let me try and do it a little bit close here, so we're a lot more like the thickness of this one here. I would argue, is a little bit more saturated on the Paper Pro. So if you want it to look a little bit redder, for example, in this color here, then you're probably going to get that from here, but you are lagging a lot more than you are on something like this. And if we can go over that again with red, make it a little bit deeper. I mean, this is a bit of an extreme example doing it this way in terms of a marker, but let's see how just using color in a pen writing situation would be. So let's change the marker to a ballpoint pen, and we will change it to cyan on there, and then we'll do that on here as well. So we'll take it to a ballpoint, and we'll take it to, I believe that's cyan, aqua cyan. All right, let's hope this is picking it up. You know, no flashing there, I hope you noticed at all, whereas that is flashing as well. What do you reckon? Very similar, but this is quicker. Hello, my name is Mark. Straight away, it's done. No flashing, nothing like that. Hello, my name is Mark. And again, I can't get the brightness up on there to show you. I'm gonna give you a little bit more of an idea what that looks like if I go on here. So let's turn up the brightness, and then let's go to using red again. Hopefully this is giving you just an idea about what you're going to expect from each of these tablets. Hello. Hello. So a lot quicker, and the particular way in which they've used the algorithm within the software here, within the firmware of the device, as far as Penstar is concerned, helps bring out this in a very contrasty way. And I think you'll agree that is pretty good. To show you that depth as well, let's go back onto the marker, and we'll just go to number 5 there. Yeah, there we go. So, oh no, let's do a brush, see what that does. So light and then thick when you push it. So over 8,000 levels of pressure sensitivity going on here. What happens when we put, what pen did I choose? It was a brush. Let's go to the brush here. Is that the brush? Shader. Which one's a brush? I can't remember. I guess it's the shade. Ah, paintbrush. There we go. And let's see. So there's levels of sensitivity there as well. Oh, and one might even argue that that is more lifelike to a brush. What do you reckon? Love to know your thoughts. Which is it looking better? Let's try the shader here. That wasn't the right, that was the wrong color as well. Yeah, we got red, okay. So ultimately, the choice is yours, whether you like the refreshing and the slowness of this when it uses colors, or the instant nature of this. I think there is an argument to be had that these look a little bit sharper than the colors on here, but it's not far. The move colors look lovely when they're finished, but you got to wait for them. Whereas within here, you write and you are done. Whereas on here, let's go to that one there. Let's go to red. And test this out. Obviously, on both of these, ballpoint pen, normal size, black, on here. Oops. Also, as well, just to say, you can add, like, if you have a preference, so you know, color, a thickness, a line size, etc., that's even more dialed in, you can add that to your selected pens. So you can have various different pens, as opposed to, that you kind of more unique to you and what you want, as opposed to you do have these kind of default ones here. Let's just go back to that, choose ballpoint. I'm going to go into the settings of these buttons here in a little bit, and let's just see how they both write. So hello, obviously if you're writing in black, you're going to get no there we go, you're going to get no flashing because it's just in black. Okay, so that's a comparison with that to that. I think this is whiter, it's clearer, it's brighter, and that is something I've always had an issue with in terms of the Paper Pros, is I just want them to be a little bit brighter, and this is even where I've unlocked the brightness that can go up even more. So again, it's preference, it's subjective. What do you prefer? This is winning it out for me in terms of clarity of background, but this is, the colours on here possibly a little bit better, but it's marginal. Let's go into here and try and suss out what we can do with these buttons, because you don't get any kind of button on here. That's it, everything's here. And again, this is an active stylus, this is a passive stylus. So button settings. Okay, so button 1, so we're setting on here, we've got at the moment is an eraser, so, and then a marker is set for that one there, and I assume you can change it to whatever you want. So marker, hand touch, so you're just touching your hand, or close, whatever it is you are doing. Yeah, there we go. So I'm pressing that button as I do it, so I'll just write that there. What was I've forgotten? Oh, it's marker. So if I press button 2, goes into the marker, and then button 3 is close. So what does close do? I don't know. I don't know, what does close supposed to do? Am I being a bit thick? Close. All right, but it's got to be near the screen for it to close the box. So for example, if you saw there we are. Bit of a weird one. You can see why that's not a default setting. So we'll change that back to hand touch. What do you reckon? I think this is a worthy upgrade to the previous eNotes that they've had. Obviously that colour is massive, and I think it does look lovely. Yeah, possibly a smidge. Oh, even though I'm thinking about it now, it's like, I think they've implemented it really well, and because of the brightness, the colours are going to punch a little bit more anyway. Possibly could be a bit more saturated, but you know, for what it is, I think it is. It's fantastic, and I love the design. It looks neat, and combine it with, which I always find these really faffy to get on. Let me see if I can do it in one move here. No, I'm still. Why do I struggle trying to get this cover on? There we go. I think it looks terrific. So, are you going to buy one? I don't know how much they are right now at the time of making this video. They haven't released the price to me just yet. As soon as I know the price and everything else that you might need to know about getting hold of one of these, I will pop a link in the description box below, and I'll do it in a pinned comment as well. Hopefully that will be an affiliate link. So if you do purchase one of these, please do use that link and you'll help support the channel. And then let me know what you think of it. If you get hold of it and you've had a bit more play, I might do a follow-up video on this in a number of weeks' time, where I do go a little bit more in depth into some of those other features that it has. But again, just to reiterate, for probably the third or fourth time, I did go into those features in a bit more detail in previous videos. And other than this being a little bit snappier and obviously colour, a lot of those features are there on the old ones as well. The thing I didn't talk about was the AI translation feature that this thing has. You've got to pay for that. Again, I do cover that in the last video that I did on the previous Penstar, so watch that for information about the AI and translation features. Pretty clever, I've got to say. All right, okay. If you want to support the channel in any other way other than purchasing one of these and buy that affiliate link, which I will hopefully have, you can buy me a digital coffee. Just scan that QR code there, link also in the description. There's loads of other links in the description as well to my Substack and things like that. Please go have a look and investigate those things. Like, share, hype, subscribe. That's what I would ask you to do. And those videos here and here, go check out the previous reviews I did on the Penstar tablets. Until next time, happy note taking in colour.